Hello, hello, Crossroads Witches and other interesting magical beings. Woo! I got another video, and of course I have notes. If you are new here, thank you for joining in. Of course, if you are new to the community, let me be the first to say welcome home. Welcome home. If your spirit is witchy, then you are witchy. It's that simple. So come on, let's join in here. So today's topic, we're going to talk about finding your moon phase. All right. Lots of different books out there. I noticed in contemporary paganism, a lot of times really gets into the full moon, new moon, and then sort of leaves out that waning, waxing, and that dark moon, and how these different phases of the moon will affect you personally, all right? One witch's full moon magic is another witch's new moon magic. What one may do on a waning, the other may do on a waxing. And then, of course, there are those of us crossroads and other type of witches, and which understand that the dark moon's got lots of energy in it, all right? Like I said, I think that we went through in contemporary paganism, especially within the Wiccan traditions, where they labeled the dark moon as somehow evil, or somehow things weren't quite right. You should never do magic on the dark moon. And I was thinking, yeah, that's probably the best time for me to do magic personally. I love dark moon energies. It's a liminal in-between space of pure potential. It's also, I know where my shadow self lies, so I need to be willing to see me for who I truly am. And maybe that's why they put warning labels on it for some folks, because they're not ready to see who they truly are. All right? So, we're going to start at the top of this one with a full moon. All right? Full moons are best time for protection. This is my list, may not be yours. All right, let me say that too. These are really good times for protection. All right, this is also a good time to get rid of old things. Okay, and of course divination is a very good time for it. Now this is also a really good time, like I said, for banishing, getting rid of things. This is also the time historically where we like to go to the graveyard and maybe get a handful of dirt. And no, you don't have to do it at midnight. And sometime around the full moon, you'll feel it. You'll be like, I need to go now. I typically go in the afternoons. I very rarely go at night anymore. All right. This is also the time that we want to create our sour jars. Full moons work really, really well with those. Okay? Now, going on to the new moon. Ooh, new moons are so much fun. I like to think of the new moon as the 3 C's. What do I have? It's cleansing, clearing, and cleaning. All right? And cleaning and cleansing are 2 different things. New moons, I'd love to straighten the corners of my rooms out, walk through my house, just straighten it up a little bit. A little bit of cleaning. I said I want to get stuff out of the corners, so then I can go back and do a little bit of cleansing and clearing. All right? If you want to change the energies up in a space, always remember clutter does not work well, especially in corners. Okay, this is also, new moons are perfect. When I said changing energies, open those windows, all right? Give a little crack and let that new moon air, that new moon energy into your house. This is the time to also shake out any rugs that are in your house. Any floor rug you got down and you want to change the energies up in your house, first thing you do is you go get all those rugs, take them outside and get all that old dirt off of it, all that old energy off of it, all right? Yeah, I did. I just felt it. I'm like, some of you witches are like, ooh, I am doing this one, all right? And of course, new moons are a good time for making honey jars. That's where we are doing blessing work. Okay. And new moons also are a time of banishment. If you are wanting to get it out, new moon. You're getting rid of the old, embracing the new. Okay? And another thing that I have found over the years, when I'm doing workings, new moons are the best time ever for stopping gossip. That's what I'm saying. You take whoever's gossiping up on you, you write it on new moon, write their name down, how many ever times you feel compelled. I always like to get me some nettle. All right? And I will take the paper and I will sit here and shred the paper, the name that I wrote down, into a little dish with my nettle leaf, and then I burn it. And then I go outside and run around my yard and throw it in the air. All right? They can't be speaking those words. If they try to speak foul words, that nettle's going to come up in their tongue. All right? Now, let's talk about that dark moon. Dark moon is when there's no illumination in the sky, okay? We typically, depending on the cycle, may have as little as 12, 18 hours, as long as 2 days. It is a slightly shorter cycle than what you see with the new moon and the full moon. The dark moon, for some of us witches, we were like, I don't know, it's less than 9% illumination in the sky, I think that counts. And then somebody else was like, no, it has to be less than 3%, And then somebody else is like, well, if I can see Diana's bow, then it's no longer a dark moon, okay? So when is a dark moon? Depends on what witch you ask. Because I went and asked several, and every one of them gave me a different answer. And my own answer was different than all their answers. See what I'm saying? That's where sometimes you're like, how do I do it? And you had, 100 witches in the room and you get 101 answers back. Yeah, so tune in to you. And when does the dark moon feel dark? When does the full moon feel full? When does the new moon feel new? All right? When can you see that waxing and you feel the growth coming in? When do you feel the waning and the diminishing? All right? This is your own natural cycles getting in tune with lunar cycles. We all know the power of lunar cycles without me going down. That's a whole other video on that. All right, with the fact that we're made up of, 70% water and the effect that the moon has on water. Just look at tides. Be aware of the fact it's affecting your body. Your body has its own tidal cycle. That's what I was talking earlier. Finding your moon phase, all right? For many of us, and you don't have to pick them all either, by the way. I'm not saying you get to only pick one and then you can't use the others. Always remember when we're given 2 choices to pick the third way, okay? But which moon do you really feel vibe on? And also it can change seasonally. What you feel in the summer, you may not feel in the winter. And then what you felt in your teens, you may not feel in your 20s. Who you were when you were 19 is damn sure who you're not when you're 29. And for you older witches out there, I know we all remember when we were in our 30s, and now as we're in our 50s and 60s, we're like, oh, I do it different now. So always be in that state of wonderment, that state of leaning in to this moment and how it makes you feel. Be willing to take whatever you decided you did, crumble it up, and be like, nope, that's not how I feel right now in this moment, That is part of tuning into lunar cycles, okay? Now let me get back, because I hadn't finished up that dark moon thing yet. What do I use the dark moon for? Dark moons are perfect for making personal sigils. We have our own witch's mark, our own personal sigil of protection. Best place to make that where you want to draw in all that energies is a liminal space. Of course, you can go to the crossroads in a cemetery at midnight and have a liminal space. But standing out in your yard under dark moon is just as effective. So the choice is yours. But this is the time for bringing in you. The dark moon is, like I said earlier, the time of shadow self. And understanding that shadow self is got good parts to it, as well as some of the negative things that we often only think about. I think about my shadow self, I'm like, oh yeah. But I have some really great shadows too. They go both ways. All right. You know, and remembering that a lot of times we talk, that our greatest deficit ends up becoming our greatest asset. So when we're in that state of the dark moon, we're in that state of shadow self, the key to it all is learning to look at yourself truthfully, with kindness, understanding and compassion, giving yourself grace. Now, when you are doing this, this is a form of healing. So for working under a dark moon, it becomes a healing moon, all right? There ain't nothing evil and dark about it, okay? This is a healing moon, a beautiful place for you to get up in you. It's also a great time to write in your journals. If you are a writer type, or just to sit and even do a little spirit writing, write down a couple of key words, how you feel in the moment under that dark moon. Of course, a dark moon is going to be a very good time for banishing things because you are in a liminal space. So this is when, if a new moon for me is like I'm banishing it from bothering me for maybe this lifetime or for this season. Okay? Whereas on some level, I have like almost a timeline. Whereas a dark moon banishment is like this lifetime, the next lifetime, and the next lifetime. Don't ever, ever F with me again, is where two different types of banishment. Because sometimes like new moon banishment is more of you're annoying me right now. And maybe down the road we can get back together. Or we can still be friends, type attitude. Whereas a dark moon is like never, ever, ever again, And now I want to flip into these waning and waxing. All right. Remember, wax on means it's growing. Waning, wax off means it's diminishing. All right. I always said when I saw that movie that first time, I just laughed and laughed because after that is what I would talk with witches about, the waning and the waxing and their, which is which, and I'm like, oh, Karate Kid, she'll teach us. So, waxing moons are building, all right, bringing in, gathering, and for some folks, they really resonate within that moon phase and they love to use that energies. For other witches, it's like, I can feel it, but I'm going to wait until the full moon. All right? It is not a go-to that we all are like, every waning and waxing moon. This is you doing you. Okay? Now, the waning moon, of course, is diminishing, getting rid of, making smaller. And again, in your spell work, if you are wanting those characteristics, and if you are going to work a spell work, working through an entire cycle, then you would start on the new, go into that waxing, all right? And feed it, work it a little more, work the full. You would work every phase of the moon into your working to take it to its ending result on a dark moon, all right? And the words you use will determine how you achieve this. So, I hope this helps some of you witches, because I know a couple of you have been asking me about moon phases, and so I did some notes up. You need to have your own notes, be able to sit down in your own thoughts. What does a full moon mean to you? Promise, fruitation. What's a new moon? It's a prospect, a planting time, planting, that's the sitting, and a dark moon is the contemplation of it. And that's how I've broke them down. Now sit down and do them yourself. See which one you're vibing on, Wedge. There ain't no book that is going to tell you your magic. Only you can do that. And you need to do it by standing under these different moons, doing workings during these different moons, and being in touch with yourself, in tune with yourself, all right, in the present moment, whatever phraseology you want to use, but be here now and embrace how it makes you feel, all right, and then get out there and do. In some regards, I know it's like, oh, that's so simple, but that's really what it's about. Your magic comes from within. You need to get to know you, how your body's resonating to different lunar cycles, and that will help you with determining what type of working you're doing when you're doing it. All right. I hope that helped all y'all witches out there and other magical beings. Thank y'all so much for joining me. And of course, if you've enjoyed this movie and you're watching till the end, please make sure you hit that subscribe, hit the like, hit the notify button. It really does help. And with that said, get out there, fly them brooms, have a bright, blessed day. And as always, amen, blessed be, ashe, and H.o.W.
Come on in. I know where the good stuff is.
Hello, come in. I have something to share.